All right, welcome in. We've survived and made it past a midterm. We are barreling towards the end of the semester. There are quite a few of exercises still in between us and the finish line. And today we're going to get some practice with projected curves and some further practice with sweeping so that we can make something that is pretty darn interesting when it comes down to it. And let's see here, that is... I don't even have it open yet, which is really bad. God. Let's try that again. Let me open it up. This is what we are after today. So we need to make this fan grate so somebody doesn't stick their fingers into a cooling fan on the back of a PC. Power supply. You see this style of ones on older power supplies, older pieces of electronic equipment. But you still see some of these around. And the thing that makes it interesting, and the reason that it is a little bit tougher definitely, is not because it's a sweep thing. We've done sweeps before. But we are sweeping and projecting a sweep onto a curve. So we see that the edge of this part actually has curvature down to it, because this would be where a screw would pass through these holes, each of these 4 holes, and we would mount this thing to the case of a computer tower or another piece of electronic equipment. So some curvature to that there makes it a little bit more interesting. And we're going to try, and the hope is that we can do this thing and create this thing with a minimal amount of mess over here in our model history. So we're going to create a couple parts of this. We're going to use the mirror tool to make our life a little bit easier and hopefully get through things a little bit quicker. All right, so first things first, we need to go ahead and start a new part file. I'm going to call this one Exercise 7, because that's what it is, Exercise 7. I'm going to hit OK. Nope, I left a space in there. Creo doesn't like those spaces. And here we go. So turning into your copy of the text available on vertanux1.com, vertanux1.com, and turning to page 72, we find exercise number 7. And we find the somewhat older version of these instructions, because this is from a previous version of Creo. But I think there is enough here for you to be able to get the thing done. So try, after watching this, watch through the video, go and try and do the thing directly from the book, using the steps shown in the book, using what you've seen in the video here to try and work through the process yourself, rather than just listening to me for 15 seconds, pausing the video, completing a step, pushing play, hearing the next thing, and repeating that until you get it done. I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you go ahead and do it that way. All right, so we're going to start off, with a sketch on the front plane. And we're going to hit sketch, and I do have my planes turned off. There they are again. Let's go ahead and go to that front side view so we can see that. And we need to start drawing up this little, let me pull this up so we have this up too, because we really need to have that up, would be helpful, right? Let's go to, and remember too, in case you have forgotten or aren't terribly sure that this exists or don't know, that if you go to Vertanux1, you will also find all of Chris Sikora's videos on doing these things. And again, his are a little bit more direct. Chris is an old pro when it comes to Creo, definitely, and he'll get you there the most direct, quickest way. I'll take some side steps, go through a little bit more explanation on some stuff and how to get yourself out of trouble when you get yourself into it as a fairly new user. And that's how I kind of approach things. So you have a point and a counterpoint on how to work through all of these things. But nonetheless, looking at here. Oh, his description for things. And we'll go and find the link to his website, Vertania1.com. I'm going to go here and grab that manual. We go parametric basics. Pull that guy up, download it, because it is much better to download it first and then go ahead and open it, because that way that gives you some options to go through and rotate things and all of that other good stuff. And we should be on page 72. And there we go. So that's what we're starting off with. We need to sketch this thing on the front plane. We have a curve here that's not quite closed off all the way. We have a couple of radii that are spec'd, and we have some distances that are spec'd as well. So let's go ahead and scale things a little bit at first, just to get us in the neighborhood. So we're going to start out and we're going to draw a line. And the line, double center click, get ourselves to about 2 inches in scale so that we have something that makes kind of some sense here. And we'll go ahead and play on from that. So we need to add to this guy. We need to go ahead and add an arc. And we're going to do a center and ends arc. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the center. We're going to put the arc out to here. We're going to touch the top of that line. The mouse left click on it once, and then we're going to work around the circle until we get something that looks about as complete as the one in the example does. Let's turn these planes off because they're just obnoxious at this point. All right, so let's go ahead and get these things dimensioned. We need a dimension for the radius. The radius on this one needs to be 1.5 inch and a half radius. Let's go ahead and set this overall height here is 4 inches from top to bottom. Let's add another dimension in for that. From there to there. I've clicked out on the side. We want to get rid of one of these dimensions because it's a conflict. We're going to get rid of that one because it's in there as a strong one because we set it. So we're going to delete that one out of there so that we can put one in here at 4 inches. Get that set up. Now we need to set up and finalize here this angle. Okay, so this angle from vertical is going to be 15 degrees. So 15 degrees of opening from the center here to right there. Let's go ahead and get that in there. I get my front view nice and squared back up again. And let's go ahead and add a center line from the center of our circle to the edge right there. And that's going to be our guide from which we can actually set up a dimension now. So pops in a dimension for us there once we do that. Let's go ahead and override that to 15 degrees. And we need to add a radius here of 1 inch. So we're going to put a fillet from right here to right here. And that is going to be 1 inch. Set that to 1. And I think that should be what we need for that is set. All right, let's go ahead and hit OK on that one to lock that one in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to flip and we're going to go to the side of this. So we're going to go to the right side of it. So we're going to go to the right plane and start a sketch there. And from where this thing originates, which is right at the bottom of this line here, right down there, we're going to start this sketch on the right side. So here is our original sketch running like this vertically. This is rotated 90 degrees, of course. So standing up, we're going to start that in the same place. And we're going to sketch how we're going to curve this thing. So we're going to end up creating a sweep that's going to sweep along a path, which is this path here. But then we're going to put that path along this curve here. Okay, so we're kind of doing two things in one. We need two things to set this up. Well, let's get on that second one. All right, so flip our side to the right. And we're going to start a new sketch there. Let's go over to that right side because it would be helpful to be looking at it if we're going to be sketching there, right? There we go. So we're started a sketch. It's on the right plane. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our line tool so that we can draw up what is shown on that right side. So let's just get it close. We're not trying to get this exact. Remember, we're just getting it in the neighborhood, and then we're going to come back and put our dimensions in there to get things locked in. So starting at that same origin there, I'm going to come up like this. I'm not going to click on these locking points where these yellows are. Okay, I'm going to try and stay away from those things as I do this. I'm going to give myself a little bit up. Okay, and I'm going to come over here like this, and then I'm going to go over like this, and I'm going to go up something like that. Okay? Close, but it doesn't need to be perfect yet. All right, so let's get some dimensions in here. First thing, this angle right here, according to our drawing, is 130 degrees. We have a couple of radii on the corner here, some fillets. Let's go ahead and get those fillets. Let's set this first one here. Radius is set at 1 on there. Set that at 1. Let's add another one right here. So back into that fillet tool. And then we click here, we click here, and we have that radius set at 0.339, but let's kind of be tricky here. Let's hit the equals constraint. And then we're going to click the one that we want it to be equal to, which is 1 inch. And then we're going to click the one that we want to be equal to that. So now those two are locked together with this single dimension of 1 inch. All right, next we have this distance from this line to there, which is set at 1 inch, which I accidentally just hit as an equals there, which kind of works, but let's go ahead and delete that dimension. So now we got it in as 1 inch there. That is good. Let's look at it the way that we want to look at it so it makes a little bit more sense, and look at it from the right side so that we can see that. And we need to set the overall height in 2 places here, or 3 places. Let's set the first one. So we need to put a dimension in from the top here to this point here where that curve ends. And that's going to be 2 1/4 inches tall. We need to set another one, our other height here, which is going to be from the center of this arc. So the center point of that arc to the bottom, so is 1.7. So we have a dimension there for that already. Let's get that one in there. And now we have that set. We have our 130 degrees. We have a radius of 1 there and there, distance of 1 inch, 2 1/4 there, 1.7 there, and we have everything that we need on that sketch on the side there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit OK on that one. And now we kind of see what we got going on here. We've got our original sketch to show the hook, that round section. We have this one on the right side there, perpendicular to that, that's going to help us set the curve for that. All right, so we need to extrude this curve. So we're going to extrude, and it's going to extrude that curve for us. It's only going in one direction, though, so let's change that. You could flip back and forth that way, remember. Or we go to symmetric, and we're going to set that distance to 4. So the overall distance is 4 inches, and we're going to put that from which it's being extruded, which is that line there, in the middle there, dead center of that 4 inches. Okay. Then we're going to go to OK to lock that one in. Now we need to go ahead and project. And we're going to project this first piece of geometry that we created onto this curved plane. Not a curved plane, but a curved, essentially surface. All right. So let's do that. So remember we can cheat here. If we don't see a tool, really easy. Can always type it in up here. And then in that search and click on it, and it brings you right into it. All right, so we need to pick our chains when we're doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the chains first, which is going to be that, right? And the surface, we're going to go ahead and pick that, which is going to be all these things. We need to pick all these selections. So we're going to click on the first one, hold down Control, and get all of the other segments of that, move it around, make sure you get all of them. And then our direction reference, we're going to pick a direction on there too, which is going to be one of these surfaces. So if we pick one of the surface, we see that we have our line projected here, but we want to flip this arrow around, because if we don't, when this gets projected onto this surface here, we're going to lose this first leg of things, and we don't want to do that. So let's flip the arrow so it's facing down. And then we're going to hit OK. And then when we're done with that, we should have that line projected onto there. Okay, so let's go and hide these things. This extrusion, let's hide that. So if we right-click on extrude and click on the hide, that's going to disappear. And then if we click on this guy, which is sketch 1, right? And we hide that one, then it's gone. And if we look around now we have that curvy sketch, which is going to be allow us to make this portion of things. Okay. So if you're good so far, you're going to be good the rest of the way, because that is the roughest part of things to get down, is get those steps in order. Okay. All right. So let's go to the part where we need to go ahead and project this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to do a sweep blend. Okay. Sweep protrusion. No, is that right? No, I don't think so. Let's just go to sweep. So we're just going to go to sweep. We're going to click on this thing. And we want this purple arrow to be on this end. If you happen to get on there and it's down over here, click on that purple arrow and flip it over here. Again, we started in sweep to get into this, because we're going to start and draw our little sketch, our profile, our circle down on this end, and we're going to sweep that along over there. All right, so let's go and find where we put our sketch in, right? It's going to be right here. So we type in sketch. And we're going to come down here and we're going to sketch right there. So let's do a circle. And we're just going to set that circle. Double center click so we can set the diameter of it, which is going to be a 1/2 inch, right? 1/2 inch, 0.5. Okay, got that. So we got that. That's there. We have our sketch identified. We have that selected. We're going to hit OK to the sketch. And there we go. So it ran that sketch down along that path. And we have our first part of things. So we're going to hit OK. We are doing pretty good. All right. So let's reset our view so we can see that front view that on nice and square. And we're going to go ahead and create another sketch that we see on page 77. So we're going to extend this leg a little bit, and we're going to create the first little bit of this thing so that we can create half of part of this grate, and then we're going to mirror it along a 45-degree angle so that we have half of it, and then we're going to create another sketch for the circular parts of the grid of that grid on there, and then we're going to revolve that thing, and we're going to mirror it, and we're going to be done. All right, so new sketch. It's going to be on the front plane. Okay, let's get in here. Let's go Align tool. We're going to start right there. We're going to come down. We want that to be exactly 7 inches long. I know some of you might be thinking at this point, like, why in the hell are we doing this so big? This would be a really big power supply. Yep, you're right. But the intention here was just to have dimensions that kind of made sense here. Okay. All right. So we got that part done. We got that line in there. We need to put a little curve on here. So if we look at this sketch right here, and we zoom in a little bit, we need to have this little leg here that has a radius of 1. Okay. And then has a 45-degree angle on here. So we want a 45 between here and here. So that way, when we're done with this and we go ahead and sweep that guy, we can mirror along this 45-degree line, and then we get that 90-degree portion of the hole. All right, so we got to get this little part made in here. So let's do that. Come down here. We know that has a radius of 1. There's a couple different ways to do this. I'm going to use the same arc that we did before. Okay, we're going to use that 3-point, that center and ends arc. Okay, so let's do that. But I'm going to put a little construction line in here for myself real quick. And I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to put that out, and that's going to be 1 inch long. Okay, because my radius is 1 inch long. And I'm just doing this as a guide. Okay. And then I'm going to go back into my arc, and I'm going to pick the center. I'm going to pick the outside of that. But then look, oh, I went the wrong way. So let's try that again. Let's start that arc. Let's put the center right here this time, though. And let's draw that. Does that work? No, we want it to start right here. Right? Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try one more time. I'll go like this. I'm going to come down here. Is that right? No. No, because I want that to go from here. Wait a minute. Okay, we're almost there. Running out of options here. That looks better. Come around like this. Set it so it's close to 45. Don't let it snap anywhere. Okay, set that in there. And let's put a construction line in there, a center line. Let's go ahead and put the center line from here to there. Lock that in. Now we can put a dimension from here to here. So let's put a dimension in from here to here. Center click there. 45 degrees. Now we got that nice and perfect. Let's go ahead and get rid of that line because we really don't need it, right? I'm just going to turn it into a construction line so it doesn't mess anything up. And now we have what we want there. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And as I come back down here, I'm going to see that I have that little sketch. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to sweep again. Now you have some choices here. And depending on what version of Creo you might be running, sometimes it's going to be easy. We could just project this geometry here to create the sketch for there. And then we'll sweep that along here. But I'm going to be a little bit lazier here. Let's go to Sweep Tool. Because I like things that work the first time and work with as many things as possible. So I'm going to start the Sweep Tool. I'm going to go to Sketch. And then I'm going to draw the sketch. But where am I going to draw it at? That's not where I want it to be. So let's see. Let's go ahead. Let's try that again. Let's cancel that with the sketcher. Yep. So where is that sketch going to be? Let's cancel that Sweep Tool. Let's go ahead and let's just sketch that guy right on there. Okay, and let's go ahead and sketch that circle right on there so that it locks to the other one. So we have the same diameter. Have that sketch in there. And then let's go ahead and hit OK. Let's go to the sweep. Okay, we got to make sure that we get this on the right side, right? So we need that arrow right there because that's where our sketch is, right? And we're going to go from there. Okay, so now we're in there. Now we're going to do that sketch. Okay, so we're going to put it centered right there. Let it snap till it's even with that one. And then we're going to hit OK. And look at that. Just like that, we've got half of this whole thing. So if we look back at this one, what we've got now is like this right here, all the way down to right here. So now we're going to mirror this thing across that face to give us the other side. Remember, we don't want to have 10,000 objects cluttering up this model tree here, okay? As quick as you can get to it, as efficiently as you can get it done, get things done that way. So let's go here, and it's faster, right? Generally speaking, if you work through this stuff faster and do this work and are able to complete it accurately and quickly, you're going to be better paid, you're going to be more employable, and you're going to move up through the ranks pretty quickly if you can do those things. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mirror this stuff that we've created already. So let's go ahead and select the parts of that. So let's see, let's project. We have this right here, the sweep is part of it there. And then our second sweep, we got to get both of those, right? Okay, so we have both of those selected. We're going to mirror now. And it has both of those selected, both of those parts. Select the mirror plane is going to be that face right there. And if you got both of those things, both of those sweeps that we created, this little one here, and then this larger one up here, well, this little one right here, and this larger one, the original one right there, you're going to have that just like that. We're almost there. All right, let's go back and get this at a front view. And let's go ahead and rotate over to the right. So we're looking at it from the side. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create the sketches on the side for all four of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to sketch those on the side of this thing connected to that. And then we're going to revolve that thing all the way around. Okay. Sounds worse than it is. Just trying to walk you through the process here. All right. So on page 80, On page 80, we have the diagram of what we need to do. Let's get down to 80. And here we are. So we're sketching this out on the side. Our first circle, our first rung is 1¼ inches from the end there. Okay. And then each subsequent one is 2½ inches. So 2½ inches between there, 2½, 2½. And then a ½ inch diameter for each one of these. All right, so let's go and sketch that out. So let's look here. And let's just kind of get it put on there. And let's make sure we're looking at this the right way. So we want the grate on the top of this, right? We want the grate on the inside of this, on the bottom. Okay, so let's make sure we're looking at the right way we want to be looking at this thing. So let's look at this. So we want our circles to be on this side. So let's just sketch out some circles. We're going to create a new sketch. And our plane is going to be the right plane, right? And we're going to start with the circle tool. And we're going to come in. And when we sketch this in, we want to do a little bit off to the side. And we want it to be, left click, set it, set the dimension. It's going to be a ½ inch in diameter. So 0.5 in diameter. And remember that we want this to intersect with this body. Just a little bit of overlap, because some versions of Creo, some of the older ones, if you happen to have another one, if there is zero contact between those or just a tangent point of contact, sometimes it has some issues with that, so you don't want to run into that. So let's go ahead and set that and get that distance from here to here a little bit farther over. If we do it at, let's see here, 0.5, we're right on. Right? We're stuck right on there. Let's go in a little bit farther than that. So 0.49. Now we have a little bit of overlap. See that little bit of crossover there, so that they're going to intersect with each other when we create that. So there's one. Okay, let's go ahead and get that one in there. Let's do another circle. Let's get the center to be the same. Let's go until it snaps to be equal. Do that one. We need 4 of these in total, right? Don't worry, we're going to go and sketch to get these things spaced like they're supposed to be after the fact. All right, so let's get some dimensions in there now and fix some of these dimensions that are in here. So let's get one here. So from here to the center is supposed to be 1.25 on the first one. And then all subsequent ones, center to center, are going to be 2.5, 2.5 on that one. And we're going to go center to center here, center to center, off to the right, center click, 2.5. And the last one here, set that distance, center to center, up, center to center. There we go, 2.5. There we go. We have all of those set up. Very nice. We need to do one more thing, though, because we're going to want to revolve those, right? So before we go to revolve that, we're going to want to put some kind of a center around which for us to go ahead and revolve. So if we move around a little bit, at the end of the day, the center point of this thing right here, somewhere in the middle of this, is going to become the center around which we're going to revolve everything. So let's just try and set that up here. Let's look back at the right side view again. And let's go in here And let's do a center line. And let's find the center of that circle. It's the end of the day here, so gotta love it. All right, here we go. So center line, we're gonna click on this point. We're gonna come straight over and get that one. And we're gonna have that center there. And that's going to be our axis around which we revolve these four. Okay, so let's hit the OK. Let's come in and let's go revolve. And see, look at that, automatically, because we had that axis and we had that sketch there, it's going to go, hey, buddy, that's the one you want to do. And that's the case. It is the one that we want to do, with a caveat here. So we don't want to revolve this thing around 360 degrees. We want to get 180 of this thing so that we can finish one half of this and then mirror the whole thing over to the other side. So looking at those directions there real quick. When we look at this, we see that we're going to change this revolve. We're going to do it a two-direction revolve. And on one side, we're going to go 45 degrees. And the other side, we're going to go 135. So let's look at that. And let's go ahead in here and change that. So we're going to go variable. Okay. I'm going to go to our options or variable. Our first one is going to be 45. Okay. And then after we put that first 45, the second one, we're going to choose variable for that one. And to get half of our half circle, in other words, we need 180 degrees. We have 45 already. So we're going to do 180 minus the 45 we did on the other side and hit enter. And that gives us the 135. So we're going to lock that in, and we have half of it done. Okay? And look at our history here, too. Our model tree is not a giant disaster. It's not a giant mess. All right, so now last thing, we need to mirror all this. So let's go in and find all the parts of this. So I have this sweep. And I'm going to control, so I grab this next portion of the sweep there. I want to go into the mirror. And instead of clicking on the mirror, which would give me both parts of those sweeps that are part of that mirror, I'm just going to open up the mirror so that I can go in and grab those things, holding down control, grab those next two. So I got 4 parts. And the last thing is I got to go to the revolve and grab that too. So I have all parts. I need 5 different things selected here. Then I'm going to go to mirror. I have all 5 selected in here. I'm going to pick the mirror plane. Could be the face on any one of these. I'm going to click on it and hope for the best. And what do you know? I got the thing. I got the whole thing. It looks pretty. It looks lovely. If I want to make it look nicer, I could go in here and I could go into Render Studio and I could go and, grab all my parts and finish up pick up a nice environment to throw it into, make it into a shiny finish on there and do all that other good stuff. And then at the end of it, I'll end up with something that probably looks just like the card for the video. Just like that. All right, so your responsibilities for this turn in are going to be your PRT file and definitely also a PDF of that. But I definitely need the PRT on this one because I really need to look at this one and dig into it to evaluate it properly. All right, that's it. Exercise 5 is done. Keep on going. See you soon.